We're, I went ahead and turned the mic on and the camera on, so we can go ahead and call the planning commission administrative meeting. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and call the January 2026 administrative meeting of the planning commission to order. So Jackie, if you could call the roll, please.
Sure. David Bush.
Here.
Margaret Clemens here. John Enright Randolph.
Here.
Scott Ferris.
Here.
Rudy Fields.
Here.
David Henry.
Here.
Jeff Morris.
Here.
Julie Thomas. Here. Joe Vandy Venter. Okay, so we have 8 people and a quorum.
Thank you, Jackie. So number one on the administrative business tonight is the housing inventory discussion.
And I'll quickly just introduce this topic. So we've talked a little bit during the county development ordinance drafting process, and then it's been brought up again as part of some of the discussions as we look to a county development ordinance. And something that the GIS division has come up with, John Baton has come up with, is sort of less a pipeline of housing coming down, but more of an inventory of existing housing. And I thought it was really interesting to this discussion. So I have in here a few topics underneath item number 1, but I asked John if he would be able to kind of walk us through what he's created and how it might be helpful. So I'll let John take it away. Okay. Okay, John.
Okay, yeah, for sure. And if there's a mouse as well.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Julie.
Hey, how
Like
are
I know all you
you?
guys, Jeff, daycare. Jeff and I have kids at the same daycare. And John Baton, Jeff.
Both in daycare.
No, not even that.
Like you remembered each other from way back. Okay. We're present in daycare.
So yeah, as Jackie mentioned, I'm the GIS coordinator. This is a project that we've been working on for a bit of time. Is it cool if I shrink this thing here? And what this is doing is pulling data, our parcel data, and our parcel data is the geometry of parcels in Monroe County, but then there's also qualitative data within those parcels. And this qualitative data comes from our assessor's office and our auditor's office primarily. This is like who's the owner of the property, where the property is located, as well as how the property is classified. And that property is classified by our assessor's office using what's called a property class code. So we have different types of property class codes. My house, for instance, I live in a single family house in Sherwood Oaks. It's coded as 510. And that means I live in a single family residence and a property that's under 1 acre in size. We have about 65,000 parcels in Monroe County. Don't quote me on that. We have around that many. We're consistently kind of trying to keep them upkeep them and make sure that everything's good. It's a lot of data though. So what we've done is we've broken these parcels out in terms of how they're utilized at different types of incorporated areas. We've also done this for Bloomington, looking at different neighborhoods for Bloomington. One of the reasons for this is just trying to get a better idea of kind of what our neighborhoods are like and what our communities are like. So what I'll do is just click on, I'll click on Bloomington to start with, just because it's a little bit easier to see. Now, hopefully everything's going to work here. The parcel should show up in a second. What we're going to do is get a breakdown here on the far left that's going to be showing the property class type. So single family dwellings, condos, commercial housing, commercial, tax exempt government property. And every computer, they look a little bit weird. And so we have an average acreage here too, but you're not seeing it, but I can expand this just so you guys can see what these tables look like. And you're going to get the total number of property classes, so single family dwellings. And this includes property class codes 510, 511, 512, 513, and 514. And what that means is those are all single family residences, but some of them might be larger acreages. But what I wanted to do is try to combine them just because it makes it a little bit easier for visualization purposes. Condos, commercial housing, those are houses that the assessor has been notified that these are rentals, essentially, apartments, etc. One of the reasons why we included the address points for this was to show a distinction between the 483 parcels that are apartments and the 16,514 address points within those, right? Because it's different numbers. So that's just kind of a overview of the table. So now if we click on these data, what it's going to do is isolate the parcels that are single family dwellings, isolate the parcels that are commercial, isolate the parcels that are vacant residential. On the top right here, we have a composition of housing for incorporated areas. And so for Bloomington, for instance, 53% of the housing within those are single family dwelling, 20% are condos, 3.45% are residential vacant. And again, it's just the way these screens kind of are projecting. 15.54% are commercial housing. So those are rental houses.
Can I interrupt with the
For sure.
question? I'm sorry. If someone rents out their house as an Airbnb, would that be considered a residential
If it's,
single family dwelling, or would it be considered commercial if it's like a certain percent of the time, or do you just automatically say residential?
so this is one of the reasons why this project started.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna pick on myself because I live in Sherwood Oaks and I know my neighborhood very well. My house, I'm a single family house. The house across the street from mine was purchased by a realtor, turned into a Airbnb. Airbnb failed, turned into a rental. Rental stopped, now it's back to an Airbnb again. Airbnbs are not tracked across the board
Right.
whatsoever. And that's because it's taxed. I believe it's monitored at a state level and sort of a local level. That one is noticed or identified as commercial housing. However, the property directly south of my house, which has been a rental for 5 years, is single family residential. And I believe this is a voluntary process that the owners have to notify the assessor about this.
Okay.
However, that same data, we've been able to acquire some data from the city, and this is from the city's open data portal for rentals within the city. And so we were able to take that information to get an idea of what's a rental property or where has a rental permit been issued in the city, and do these correlate with being a commercial housing or not?
Right.
And sometimes those two data sets don't really articulate very well.
So in other words, it's really up to how it's keyed in at the assessor's
Right.
office to determine
Yeah.
whether it's, well, maybe they rent it 9 months of the year, but the other 3 months they live in it, how do they?
Yeah.
How it's keyed in, and of course they have to pay innkeeper's tax if they're Airbnb. Okay.
Correct.
It's categorized over there as producing revenue.
Yeah.
And the data is all over the place. It's not
Yeah.
consistent across the board, and there's a lot of gaps. So John's doing an amazing job with creating kind of these incremental steps to show kind of the housing stock, but there's a lot of collaboration that needs to occur to get a, very high level confident data. And we've noticed lots of different areas where things aren't being classified correctly. But that's not that's not John's responsibility, but we have had these conversations with the auditor and the assessor.
Just ask
Yeah.
a question, since we have a little stopping point, could you define residential vacant for me?
So that's a code from the assessor's office. And what that means is that property has been zoned, I believe, as residential, but it's not occupied currently. And I believe that's what that means.
Now, could that also mean that the lot has no structure on it, but it's zoned residential?
I believe so.
Okay,
And I think that's just all about the assessing aspect of
Yes.
it. If it's a vacant property, it's gonna be assessed lower than if there's a
Yes.
livable structure on it.
okay.
And then one other thing is we're not integrating zoning data, so like it'd be interesting to start incorporating that to see like, okay, in this zone, what's vacant? So like, all I'm getting at is the inconsistency between some collaboration that produces data that isn't reflective, but this is pretty close. I'm just saying like some of that might say residential vacant, but honestly,
It could be zoned something differently.
it could be zoned something differently than a residential use, and it's just that disconnect between where we're getting the information and what else is
Sure, but it
kinda
doesn't, you
relates to it.
say that that's a vacant apartment or something.
I would assume residential vacant would mean that there's no
Vacant land.
structures.
Okay,
that it's
that's
vacant
what
land.
I-
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm a data guy.
Uh-huh.
So because we're hearing about inconsistencies and disconnects, what's your confidence level on how accurate this information is?
I would say my confidence level with the codes from the assessor's office is high. The property class codes, more so than some other data that.
Is that 75% or 80%?
I mean, I'm not gonna.
You're not gonna-
I mean, off the cuff, I would say I'm 85% to 90% confident. I think they're going out and monitoring this annually. And this is where a lot of revenue comes in. So I think their data is good. I think the parcel data in terms of the geometry of it, some of that is a little bit weird sometimes, but again, we're consistently kind of refining this in our auditor's office. So, okay. So this is, and I can take, anytime you guys have a question, just like blurt out. I'm confident in these things. So this is Monroe County data now with all of our parcels. And again, it's broken down the same way. So we have single family dwellings in Monroe County. Again, so this is just the corporate boundaries of Monroe County, now including Ellisville, Bloomington, or Steinsville. To do this, what I did was a inner buffer, essentially, so we're not getting things that are directly on the boundary of Monroe County and Ellisville. So an inner buffer of like 10 feet. So it's just we're not double counting parcels essentially. So these are single family dwellings. These are residential vacant properties. So there's 3,536 residential vacant properties. Again, average acreage or total acreage, average acreage, man address points. Agricultural vacant, agricultural, condos, tax exempt government property. So this is stuff like the Hoosier National Forest and Morgan Monroe State Park. Commercial housing, 2-family dwellings, those are duplexes. Commercial properties, which would be things like cook, any type of facility like that. Other tax exempt properties, and these can be, I'm not really sure what other tax exempt properties are. We have a lot.
Churches?
Well, churches are tax exempt religious properties. So that's a whole different one.
Oh, that's a different one.
Yeah, and so I think this could be like parks.
That's Sycamore Land.
And Sycamore Land Trust, things of that nature. The tax exempt religious properties, we have a lot in the city more so than the county. Commercial vacant, industrial, and these can be things like quarries and stuff like that. Industrial vacants, which I'm guessing are quarries that aren't occupied anymore.
On the industrial, or
Yeah.
actually with the residential vacancy, and I guess my main point here is this is what the assessor's classifying, and that's what the use is. The zoning may have changed. So that's where we really need planning to get involved to see kind of, is that all residential zone in these residential vacants are the same? So I hope that clarifies some of what needs to be kind of some of the next steps so we can relate it to more planning purposes.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
thanks, John.
Yeah, and so essentially this is what we have going on for this. And again, this is it's a broad kind of look at parcels within these different incorporated areas. When you break it down into the city within neighborhoods, it gets a little bit more, I don't want to say interesting. It's more interesting for me because I live in the city and it's where I kind of spend most of my time. But it's just it's a way to kind of look at how our community and our county is composed in terms of our usage of parcels.
Pie chart for the.
Yeah, so sure. And again, this is just housing. So this is just looking at the types of residential facilities. So we have about 71.36% are single family dwellings, that is housing, 15% vacant residential condos, commercial housing, 2-family dwelling, and the other would be things like triplexes.
Commercial housing includes hotels and motels, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, that's motel and a hotel, I think would just be a commercial.
Just commercial?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I don't think that's considered housing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So these commercial housing structures are not qualified by the number of units.
These are, well, I mean, we could look at commercial housing with address points, and that's where we're gonna get that. So what you could have is like I'm trying to think here. Like an apartment complex could be one, say there's an apartment complex in Monroe County.
Yes.
That'd be one parcel,
Yes,
but there could be 600 address points within that.
exactly.
Yeah. And so that's where we have it in the table. So if we want to look at commercial housing here, what I'll do is expand this. And part of this was, I was spending a lot of time working with MCCSC as part of a redistricting project they're doing. We're looking at balancing socioeconomic status across schools. And apartments to me versus single family dwellings, apartments signify kind of potentially a lower socioeconomic status than a single family dwelling if you're a property owner. And if we were just talking about parcels, you could have 60 parcels that were single family dwellings in a school zone and one apartment, but that apartment could have 300 addresses, right? So it's a way to kind of, I guess, better kind of quantify numbers of people or usage. So I'll just expand this. We can look at commercial housing. We have 1,121 commercial housing parcels in Monroe County. And out of those, there's 1,196 address points. So most of these are not, to me, looking like, apartments or condo, or apartments or large kind of structures like that.
But these questions, like, as long as like maybe someone can follow up, we can address to the assessor's office.
Yep.
Like this, we have a good level of understanding, but a lot of this is kind of us actually digging into some more of the data. Most people are used to like a parcel view where they click on it and they get that pop-up of that limited data. All of this is kind of more behind the scenes, and as John continues to kind of try to create that data visualization and make it where people can use it, we need to follow up with the assessors to make sure we're providing you with like accurate feedback. But just want to make sure that like we're going to do our best, but there's still a level of learning to take place in this.
If you'd run across, for example, and I don't know that this exists, but if you'd run across, for example, a PUD zoned area and it had both housing and commercial structures in it, whether they're vacant or not, if they're not built out, how would it show up here?
Yeah, good question.
I would have to look at that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily
Okay.
sure. I haven't been looking at the zoning aspect of it.
Okay, but so for example, if a PUD existed and it was already platted and there were, 50 lots, 25 of them had houses, but 25 didn't, you would expect to see 25 residential dwellings and 25 vacant residential lots.
And
Okay,
if we know where one is, we can zoom in and see what it looks like.
okay.
That's my assumption too.
So this is a work in progress, clearly.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And this took a lot of, what we had to do for this was a number of processes, but it was essentially combining parcels together. And then also kind of aggregating them based on those property class codes. So,
Here's like a PUD,
that's residential vacant.
that's a Harrodsburg PUD where it's supposed to be duplexes, so vacant, platted. And then what's the class code, residential vacant, so it's just classified as one. But that would be like, what's allowed there is like 24.
That's the type of information.
So wouldn't have
we
address.
use
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
Forecasting.
yeah.
Why wouldn't that be drawn out?
It's not.
It's not platted yet.
It's not. Well, is it platted?
I mean, this is just better yet.
No, that's auditor. The auditor would be drawing out the individual parcels.
Correct.
It says platted, but it's not.
Yeah.
I think that is.
So again, there's,
And I got
we're talking about multiple elected offices all working in collaboration to create a dashboard that we can have a high level of competence on. And this is just kind of one of the first steps to get there.
Would be, like, this is allowed to have quite a few,
Hunter properties.
commercial
If you-
vacant.
Can you
So she-
scroll up and see if it says plat link? On there, yeah, right down just a little bit. It says view right there. Yeah,
Oh.
that should bring you a plat. Yeah, so then you can kind of see how many lots are permitted.
Okay, I won't know unless I look at the PUD document, exactly.
Exactly.
Okay,
That one's green space, but there's more allowed on the. So essentially with your assessment, if they don't have address points, which we wouldn't give address points until they either plat or develop, then there's no way to know the number within that parcel of what would be allowed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we just know the number of parcels.
unless these are already supposed to be drawn out from the parcel layer, then it would show each
Right.
individual parcel. So there could be a disconnect there of how the management has went from being approved through the planning
But if
process.
platted, like Westgate on Third is. Say 350
But I
apartments,
thought I
there's
seen-
no subdivision, there's
But-
one parcel
yeah.
with 350.
But there's a
acres.
plat in
370
the
lots.
city that has like, we were just looking at like 40 some parcels associated all
Sure.
single family dwelling, and there's only two parcels built out. So what I'm saying is there might just be a little disconnect of how that gets entered into that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, what's comments up here.
yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's just, I think some of this could be addressed in the OpenGov as we were talking about other processes that involve the auditor's office and other areas. We had a sidebar conversation about annexation and making sure that things are going through all the proper processes and authority chains. And Jackie was nice enough to incorporate a workflow in our Outlook to make sure that we're not missing some of those steps. And this could be something that could be built out like that as well. But I leave that to you like I did last time.
Thank you, John.
Yes.
So I have I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
I've spoken way too much. Please.
You've got a lot of data here.
Mhm.
What's your schedule for keeping the data fresh? What's your reload time?
Sure, this data, we're not the ones producing this data. However, we are the ones who aggregate the data together.
Correct.
And that occurs every evening, at like 2 a.m. So I utilize, it's called SQL Server, which is basically a database management software. And we run a script that basically is building these flows essentially every evening. So yeah,
From the assessors.
from the assessor and the auditor. Yeah.
So that's awesome. So, resources for keeping it fresh in the future? Is it just you or is it,
Oh, we have myself and a GIS technician, but then our technological services department, technical services department, TSD is very responsible as well. But a lot of this was built out also from us working with some different kind of third-party vendors to assist us in writing some of the scripts. SQL Server is like a language that I'm learning, but I'm not fluent in it. I'm better at Spanish than I'm at SQL Server. It's just one of those things. I've traveled there. So it's just learning a new language, but
Sure.
yeah.
so thank you.
One of the biggest thing is the collaboration we have with multiple departments to help provide the software. And that's in collaboration with the commissioner's office as well.
Mhm.
Because without the software, we can't build the back
Correct.
end.
Yeah.
Speak to the collaboration.
The collaboration, well,
Speak to that.
the GIS divisions within the surveyor's office,
Okay, that's you.
yeah, and at that time, we had very limited licenses. So we went with the ELA proposal, met with the commissioner's office. They were willing to move in that direction. That those funds are overseen by the TSD director, and by the okay of the commissioners, they go ahead and provide us the software. So we utilize it. So we've been able to dig into the data as far as seeing some of the classifications from the assessor's office. We've also been able to update the data to have more real-time change of sales. I'm not saying that correctly, but the transfers, thank you, because the assessor only does that once a year, but the auditor tracks it in real time. And they wanted that for years and years. And it's like, well, you have this in the WOW database. We'll pull it up, and that's what the community is looking for too. So, and then over time, we brought more departments online and
Within the county?
Within the
city,
county.
Or with the?
well, we work collaboratively with anyone that we can. Sometimes it's hard.
Sometimes it's easy.
Yeah. And so,
Well, that's where I'm going. When I see Bloomington, Ellisville, Monroe County, Steinsville, et cetera.
well, the county maintains all the parcel data. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but there's a lot of other parts to that, and some of it's like the zoning map, and we've talked about building out topology where that geometry is there. So if you're like, I want to see all of this residential, it'll filter everything else out. But right now, those lines don't exist. So we have to create that topology to make things like that easier. Also, the zoning map is managed by the planning office. The corporate boundaries is managed by the planning office. The parcel geometry is managed by the auditor's office. They also manage the LAO that helps the backfill the data. And the assessor also manages PAMA data, which is backfill data. That's more the authoritative data. And we need to bring it all together, share that geometry, and make sure that, like, if we wanted to click on one of those parcels right now, we know what zone it is too. Not just what classification that the assessor has. And it's a big project, but I think we're making great progress, and
A lot of this collaboration and build out too occurred because we became really reliant on Elevate, which was a parcel data viewer we used up until 2 years ago, and it's Beacon now. But Elevate was going through this process of crashing routinely, and our parcel data internally, we didn't have this information on. And rather than our office fielding hundreds of calls a day from angry realtors and people that were saying, why can't I see this? We decided to build this out ourselves. So we would have that kind of stability and have a resilient infrastructure to kind of move forward. That's accurate. So, and as accurate as it's as accurate as the data itself, right? So if there's an inaccuracy in the data source, that's going to be reflected here as well. But again, we're consistently cleaning this up and making sure things are good. So.
So twofold question. The first part of my question is, what is the plan then for incorporating zoning into this, especially for Monroe County outside of also Newington? Is that the next step?
We definitely could. And if that's the direction that people are seeking, that's something we can definitely put on our table.
How would it? I guess I'm kind of thinking of it in two ways. In one way, I think, yes, incorporate it into what you have, but I'm also thinking maybe not. Maybe it needs to be separate, and then there's sort of that Venn diagram point where they intersect one another. I don't know what that answer is.
I don't think that the integrating the zoning into this would be that challenging. It's basically 2 layers of data.
Okay.
So you have a zoning layer, which is broken down by different types of zoning. And then you have parcel data that you just overlay on top of it.
Right, but I think what we're missing are those, the PUD that's never been developed and things like that. And it seems like that would make the data more confusing if it's mixed in with this, because the assessor's office hasn't tracked that.
Sure.
And
Right.
that was the goal from the beginning,
Yeah.
to find out what has been approved and what has not
Right.
come online.
Yeah.
And to know, for example, there are 4,500 or more units at Sudbury that have been approved. And does that show up on the map, that 4,500?
I'm guessing not. If they haven't been platted out.
Yeah.
what can we do is, when we have those PUD zones, and then we can then reference it with the classification as if they're vacant, and then we can start creating a list where if we're looking for more content, then that's gonna
So it's in
kind of
Bloomington.
allow us to handle it in more bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, but for this one, you wouldn't have that information from the assessor until it's actually
That's why we would,
platted.
that's why we would be able to have that topology where
Yeah.
the zoning map would be here, we could search all PUDs, and then immediately underneath it, it'd have the parcel where it would still tell us if it was.
Right. But
there's-
zoning
Because that's
is
what's being
like
used.
Yeah.
for.
what is permitted, not what's been approved.
It's gonna take a lot of work. I think what I was talking with John before we got here is, you're gonna get a lot of feedback, and let's just try to work towards that, work with planning and continue
Yeah.
to chip away. And I think there's gonna be, like, in this type of technology, 6 one way, half a dozen the other, but I do think we can achieve the outcome that we're looking for.
The other question I have is related to this project overall. I think the tables are incredibly helpful, incredibly helpful. But I wonder if is there a principle or philosophy behind this that says, let's look at where there are vacant properties so we can rezone them, or is it just happen to be on a map, but you have the data, the most important data is on that table? You see what I'm saying? Is the idea to try to influence planning and zoning decisions based on map? Or is it just, here's a map so you can see where it is while you're looking at the table?
Yeah, for me, it was a visualization.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why and this started with the city of Bloomington with neighborhoods.
Right.
And this again is kind of my own kind of ideology. And it's because I consistently hear on NPR and in the B Square Bulletin and Herald Times that there's a housing shortage and that there's also a housing crisis. And these two are used interchangeably. And I think one of those is very true. And I think one of those I was always kind of like, well, I think we have a lot of houses. And so I was always kind of trying to figure that out. And looking at the address points and then looking at the number of houses, that was kind of how I started looking at it. I do think that there's these maps and this data should be used to shape policy, right? And to influence policy, right? If it's good data, right? But I think for these, it's more visualizations. And for me, I was really interested in like, well, what's the composition of Bloomington, right?
Yeah.
I'm running these neighborhoods all the time.
Yeah.
And when I moved here, I was told, move to Bryant Park, move to Elm Heights. It's like, that's where you need to live. It's a core neighborhood is what people call it.
Yeah.
And you look at Bryant Park or Elm Heights, it's like 60% rentals.
Yeah.
You can show that.
And here it's kind of a little bit difficult, but yeah, if we go to Bloomington, and just zoom into like Bryant Park and look at the landscape of landlords, when this loads, it is a lot of data, like I said.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
missed
this is,
the other one, but this works, right?
so these are commercial housing
Right.
and again, this isn't all the commercial housing. These are the landlords who actually report that
Report,
to our septic
right,
office.
Right.
And then this also was coupled with Senate Enrolled Act 1, which is going to be defunding local governments. And so there's also a taxing thing here, right? In
Right.
terms of
Right.
doing your part to have a thriving democracy. And that means actually being responsible as a landowner. So I think
Yeah.
I went way too far there with my answer.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. I think what I would ask is that vacant parcels be differentiated between open land and empty houses. I think that would be an important differentiation to make,
I'm not sure.
for the
how that would
county.
be.
I don't know.
And that would be
I
like,
mean,
there would have to be some of the assessing code if there is a way to do that.
because there is a,
Is it?
it is in the assessor's code, if the property is truly vacant versus a house that doesn't have residents in it.
Well, I think that's residential vacant is what that would
Right.
be. There's no, I think it's zoned as residential, but there's no property. We could actually even like look at one of these and
If
bring
you
on
want,
an
I
aerial
do.
and see what it looks like. So if I just zoom into this guy here,
I know.
And I just
had
want to,
yeah. So
I just want
here's,
to address that question real quick too. Is the goal here is to make a transparent dashboard and truly show the housing layout or composition of the county? And unfortunately, people are gonna take their thoughts and narratives and run with it. But the goal is to make this feel like a tool that you can have confidence on and just be able to bring that transparency. That is our core mission, is to let the data speak to itself.
Yeah.
The only real thing that we have in there is the data visualization part, but we're wanting feedback for that, like what kind of graphs, what kind of colors, and
Yep.
things like that. But like the data, as far as the way it's going to be presented, is just going to be like, this is what it is. And
Well,
as we learn more of like what vacant residential means, that's a great question. Does it mean there's a structure on there, or does it just mean no one lives there?
looks
Or
like
does it
it's
mean
in the
it's,
city, when you look at those.
there was at least one, yeah. And I didn't have a base map switcher on this, and so I can't see the areas.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
again, yeah, the data, like I said, the data in here is as good as the source data that we're pulling
Right.
from it. So
in the
And you
building
remember the-
department would be the next goal, because if they actually got permit to build a structure, then we can start filtering it out as far as like vacant with structure or vacant open land. Sorry, I'll stop there.
That vacant lot across the street from me that I got in the tax sale.
yeah.
It was vacant house for 20+ years
Yeah.
until I purchased it, demoed it. But it was always being taxed and considered residential until I had to poke the assessor's office, come out and look and make sure the structure's gone, so I don't pay taxes on it again.
Right.
I'd be pretty proactive to like
Right,
get it and do it, so I don't know how.
but most people would be, I would imagine.
I know people that don't look at their tax bills at all. I
Why?
just had a discussion at a party recently and they're like, I'm oblivious, I just pay
Oh
that.
my God.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, this is really wonderful work, and it's very detailed as far as what currently exists. And so that has value, especially for the purposes of your dashboard and for the assessors and the auditor's office. As far as planning is concerned, prospective data, approvals that have not yet come to fruition, like Sudbury Park, the 371 units at Westgate, all of those types of things, they, by definition, won't show up here because the base map is coordinated with the other government units, so.
But that's something we're trying to get feedback from so we can build in a workflow. So if we can start identifying them and kind of, we can continue to layer this data.
Sure.
And that is an achievable goal. It might take some time to identify it all, but.
Sure, and like the number of units, like in a condominium, how many condos, the condominiums, there are 150 or 3,454.
Correct, and I can expand this too.
Yeah, and is that buildings containing multiple condos, or is that 3,454 individual condominiums?
These are 3,454 parcels that have a condo that's classified as a condo. Most condos would be like a small parcel.
But for example, where Charlotte lived over there by Yanko's little Zagreb, that what was that called? The Forge or the mill?
Foundry?
Yeah, so those were condos in there. Would they show up as one because it's on one parcel, or the number of units inside?
One.
I see.
So this is like a condo that I've isolated. So there's basically it's almost a 1-to-1 for condos and address points. It looks like 3,454 condos, 3,513 address points.
I see in the county.
And that's city.
That's it.
I see.
I think mobile homes would be off. I know they're behind on the address points for those.
Can you also make a note about the over 10 acres in the county? That was something that you.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll clear this here. And this is one other thing too. So we go Monroe County and then we go to parcels over 10 acres in size. You can go like
Can be so.
wherever this loads. So these are there's 1,355 parcels coded as vacant agricultural that are over 10 acres in size. 37 commercial, 358 residential vacant, 603 single family dwellings. Those would be
Those address points that you have identified. So if no one is living there, does it show up as an address point if it's never been occupied?
If there's a house on it, there would be an address point.
But as an apartment, I mean.
As an apartment, there would still be an address point for it.
Even if it's given. Okay, that's interesting.
And the address points too again, it's pulling data together. So our address points, we have addressing that occurs at the county side, right? So that's planning office here. Those are address points within Monroe County's incorporated area. And then the city of Bloomington has their own addressing, and Ellettsville addresses through Bloomington as well. So we're bringing together address points from the city of Bloomington, Ellettsville, and Monroe County and aggregating this together.
And that was my question about collaboration.
Yeah.
How is that working?
So that's a script I run as well. So I pull data from
And they allow you to pull that data?
Correct. Yeah, it's public data. So yeah, and I write basically a model. So yeah.
You want to mention the data harvest just a little bit, how the county is the body responsible.
Sure, and that's like separate from this kind of, but yeah, we as the state of Indiana, the Geographic Information Office has an initiative that they do every year, and it's called a data harvest. And what they do is they try to bring in core data sets from the county, and these are things like road center lines, address points, and parcel data, along with things like library boundaries, political boundaries, and things like that. And they aggregate these at the state level. So we bring these in every year, and part of that process is us as the GIS division in the surveyor's office. We collect data and ship it off to the state, but we have to make sure that the schema is accurate at the state standards. A lot of this is for, it's called Next Gen 911 reporting. And so it's for dispatch to make sure that if there's a fire, the fire chiefs know where to go, or the fire trucks know where to go. And if there's an emergency, they know where to go as well. And so that's kind of part of the process that we needed to do to get these data kind of coming in. And yeah, so I started in this position in 2022, and it's been a learning experience, and it's been super fun as well. But it's been kind of like when I first started here, it was like, what is going on? Like, how is this even happening? We had no idea like where Ellettsville is getting data, or Ellettsville had no idea how their addressing even occurred. And the city of Bloomington's just been doing it for 20 years, basically. So it's been a really interesting process, and we're kind of consistently refining as well. Jackie and I spent a couple weeks in December removing kind of duplicate addresses that, we would randomly have a Bloomington address, and then Bloomington would randomly have a Monroe address in their data. And we were having duplicate addresses that we didn't want to have.
I mean,
so.
it's just setting you up for a good census also.
For sure.
I mean, you have to.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And is this still in beta testing? Or is this?
I would say it's after beta, but it's still kind of, we're always tweaking stuff. And so we put out data dashboards all the time, and we try to provide a public service, right? That's going to be, there's so much data out there. We're trying to make this available to the public. Today, I just published a big data dashboard for the American Community Survey, which is a product of the US Census. And so it's a 5-year average of data from 2018 to 2023. And we published this, and we put it on Reddit, we put it on Facebook. And one of the best things about this is feedback we get from the community that
Well, we didn't
says,
put it on Reddit through a county
No,
organization.
but it's
We did
been
that
fed.
out of free will because there's a weird policy there,
But anyways, we get feedback from the community, and sometimes it's like, this is great, but a lot of times it's like, well, this could be cooler if you guys did that. And when we get that feedback, that constructive criticism or not constructive criticism, we take it and we go with it, and we make our stuff better. And so I forgot what your question was.
Well, it was 2-part question.
Sure.
You answered the first part.
Okay,
Second part was gonna be, is this live yet? And if it is,
it is live.
it's publicly
who
available.
has access to it?
We don't have it linked to a number of different places because we wanted to continue to gather feedback. But it's all public data anyway, so
Yep.
people have access to it. It's just the way it's being displayed and the way you can filter it is the only thing different.
We do have a GIS division website that gets a lot of, it's an award-winning website, by the way. And the goal is to publish this on our website, so it's an easy place to people to access and to go to.
But the link in the agenda will work if you
Yeah,
share
yeah.
that.
Do you know who's accessing your data?
No, I mean, do I know how many people are accessing it? Kind of, and it's lots.
I'm more concerned about who's accessing it.
Sure. This is
And using the data.
sure. Yeah, this is like public data, and so we do have a number of like firewalls put up in terms of malicious actors and stuff like that, and we're consistently trying to kind of build up our securities and things like that. There's, in terms of like parcel data, there's restricted addresses. And so, for instance, elected officials, judges, folks working in sheriff's department and things like that can have their addresses restricted from the public. And that's a process that occurs in the auditor's office. So you have to fill out a form for that. And so that's part of our parcel data that's restricted. Yeah, the rest of it's public facing. And so.
and it's a lot of what we're seeing right now is a one way. We're not having two-way connections to it, so you can't change the data. We're just showcasing the data, and then that's more of a TSD I think question, because a lot of this is on our portal, or Esri question, because a lot of it would be on the AGO. But
we can see how many hits
We
were
can
with our main website though. And I remember I presented at the commissioner's office a couple of years ago, and it was something like, we deployed our website. I think I deployed it or created it in August, and I went and presented in December, and there was something like 30,000 hits. So we get a lot of hits.
Yeah.
I just, because I deal with this in my own work, and, sure, the base data is public, but you're amassing them in a new and unique way. Is there, what are the controls for privacy? And especially since that granularity of data is being conglomerated in a new and accessible way. And is there an internal review board process for the conglomeration of data in this new and accessible, click on a point, get all this varied information from one point? I mean, what are we doing as far as that is concerned?
I mean, it's like the restricted addresses are the main thing. The rest of this data has been available in this format on Elevate and Beacon for before I've started.
Yeah. And also
But if somebody were to restrict their address like today,
Sure.
it would be restricted as of tomorrow because you're
Correct.
doing the
Yep.
daily upload.
Yep.
And so it would automatically
A time
block
machine.
that.
Time machine would get back if I wanted to. Well, I just am wondering about that aspect of it, and if, should we consider whether or not the average citizen can have their data restricted as well, not just public officials,
That's and I've reviewed this and I think that that's a state level policy, I
Mhm.
believe. And there's definitely a form at the auditor's office. And we've actually had people who had their address restricted that have called me and then had wanted it to be unrestricted.
Mhm.
And so I think, former sheriffs or stuff like that,
Mhm.
or sheriff's deputies that were worried because their address wasn't showing up on Beacon or on our parcel data viewer and their house was for sale and it was,
I
having
see.
some type of impact on their ability to sell their property.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was one of the issues that
Sure.
we kind of tackled right away was understanding about that restricted addresses. And again, this all goes back to our reliance on a vendor's software that wasn't working. And then we had to deploy something ourselves internally and then starting to understand all the different ramifications of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I used to run analysis division
Mhm.
in my prior life. So I have some understanding about these crazy databases and being buried in data. One thing that we've always tried to do is provide trends, analysis, and assessments of whatever. Like in this area, we're seeing,
Sure.
in this area, we're seeing this. And so a top level, I'm not gonna call it an executive summary, but some sort of this is what we're seeing, the current trends, and these are assessments of these particular categories. Something like that would be very helpful from a big picture standpoint. Is that something that you generate? You have a generator in there for?
I do, and we have multiple dashboards. I do have one that's like a value analysis dashboard that basically can go into parcel data, looking at assessments and sales, going back to 2020. So you can see like in 2020 how many sales were there. What is the correlation between assessments and sales at different spatial extents? So as you zoom in, zoom out, you can see, well, this parcel is sold for $1 and it's assessed at $1, right? That's kind of what you want to see with assessing and sales. Maybe I'm not sure if that's what you want to see, but you can see that with our data. And so we do have multiple dashboards. One of the things we've been working on lately is trying to bring multiple dashboards. And so this is the data dashboard, but we've been trying to bring multiple data dashboards into a single site. So people don't have to have 15 URLs to follow to do things. So I think that's a great idea to kind of combine multiple kinds of.
Yeah, we
looking
built
at data.
a portal at a national level,
Sure.
but we took and broke them up into categories,
Mhm.
very top level,
Mhm.
and with a few little fancy charts, and
Sure.
it was all right there.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to drill down to the 19 levels of detail.
I'll
Do
this is
Right.
this is something I'll is it cool, Jackie, if I
Reports, yeah.
let's go
Are you showing the beacon side?
I'll show you one do that. Type.
Everything we're discussing and showing is available on the beacon site. The goal here is to get a sense of how you guys or how the planning department could utilize this data and we can kind of build it out in a more functionable, usable way. So there's great conversations, and if we're creating a dashboard that's meant for planning and Jackie's working with the plan commission directs Jackie to do something,
Mhm.
John's gonna work with him and we can
Mhm.
build it out to those goals and objectives.
Yeah,
But on the
Good.
other side of things, all of this data is already out there. It's already available. That's just kind of how it has been since I've been with the county for 20 years.
And so this is like an example of multiple dashboards in one site. And so this is that American Community Survey data I was talking about. And so this is looking at total housing units. It's a choropleth map. And so the darker colors represent more of something, the lighter colors represent less. But the data here is so rich or complex, I should say. As you zoom in on one of these, this is block group 1, and this is in Bloomington. You get the total housing units. And again, this is based on the census and based on the American Community Survey, the vacant housing units, the occupied housing units, owner occupied, renter occupied, median year of the structure that was built, the median number of rooms, average household size, et cetera. So there's tons of data in here. And again, we just published this today. And so this is just housing, but we have education, we have the economy. And then the other cool thing about this is because the data is so robust, you can actually just isolate things. And so I'm going into my layers here and say I just want to look at the vacant housing units.
Do you want to talk about census blocks a little bit as how you're able to view it and kind of what that
Yeah.
block is?
So this is the block group. The census aggregates data in three levels, three spatial levels: census blocks, which are the smallest; census block groups, which are kind of a combination of blocks; and then census tracts, which are a combination of block groups. And so this is at the block group level. That's the most granular level of data you can get American Community Survey data at. But yeah, what this does is it breaks down data based on whatever category you want. And so this is looking at vacant housing units. And so for instance, this census tract here has 373 vacant housing units within it. This is block group 1, census tract 16. You can search by address here as well. I typed in the wrong thing. I pick on myself because I know my address. It zooms in, it tells you the census block group you're in. So here's census block group 1, tells you the total housing units for that census block group. And again, this is just housing. We also have employment, we have population. So this breaks down types of work. And again, this is the television, I think, that hasn't been configured to be a computer screen, so it looks a little bit weird. The economy as well, you can look at, but these are kind of examples of things I think we could do with the housing study that we bring in, things like zoning, and all the other comments you guys have made.
You want to mention it, how you've been working with the gentleman at the Polis Center, kind of here and there to kind of bounce some of this off of, as far as what they're doing kind of at a state level.
So the Polis Center is it's a kind of think tank as part of the IU Indy. I forget what it used to be called, IUPUI, and now it's IU Indy. And they've been working on a bigger project. Are you talking about like the eviction stuff?
Well, just in general, how they use this data,
Sure.
and how that's kind of been some of the impetus of us wanting to bring it here at a local level.
I might be kind of lost with the Polis part of it, with the ACS. Sorry.
Well, I do want to.
Yeah.
It's been about 1 hour of our administrative meeting, so I really appreciate
Yes.
John coming and presenting. And I think it's a lot of information that we wanted to just share and have John and Tron help present that. So that's like an inventory of what we have. And we can think more on some of our questions, how maybe planning and or the GIS division can help with that housing inventory, but we didn't want to lose sight of this, and John had created such a great inventory of existing data that I didn't want to lose that, so
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So much.
Yes.
Good to
Thank you guys.
see you. Thanks for being late.
Yes.
Work.
Appreciate you.
It's a lot of work.
I do, yeah. I'm
Okay.
Thank
See you
you.
guys.
Joe.
Thanks. Okay, so moving on to item 1B, which is the active and upcoming subdivisions in Monroe County.
Yes, so this is in the packet, something that we had created, it was actually a request by the BEDC that we create something like this. So we had put this together, it was pretty relevant, pretty recent. So I just wanted to share this. This is something we're happy to do more frequently. It just gives you an idea, sort of like what we're discussing of an inventory, but it's not quite like that visualization. So we had given this specifically because the person was looking to possibly locate here and they wanted to know the types of housing, availability, locations, things like that. So we can do this kind of work anytime and update it as we can. So we just kind of comb through that information. It needs to get regularly updated because things change frequently. And then I'll also note, I think this is 1C, where we last left off was a discussion of, like, we had produced basically a dashboard with John's help of, connecting it with a survey that other jurisdictions could fill out. And then also putting those on a map, which we could combine with John's inventory now that that's well built out. And just having some sort of visualization of, is that the building permit level? Has it just been receiving a rezone approval, or does it actually have, development plan approval, things like that? So this is kind of where we left off with our housing inventory discussion, but I know I'm providing a lot of information tonight, but just wanting to not leave this off the table, and if you have ideas or things, if you want to hone in on, some of the discussion about separating out vacant land versus vacant housing, or, what, even looking at lots that are 10 acres or greater in size, do people want to even know like what there is left under the current code to subdivide if they wanted to, as we talk about the sliding scale discussion later on, or as we have been talking about the sliding scale discussion. So those are the types of things that we would like feedback from, and you don't have to give it to us immediately, but as you think about that, just wanted to bring it back to the table.
Survey. In the packet.
No, this has been shared in prior, emails and discussions, but I'm happy to reshare it if people would like.
Any members of the planning commission have immediate feedback, or you prefer to bring it up at a later date or email planning staff?
I'd
Yes.
like to ruminate.
Yeah,
It's a lot of information.
And I think the hyperlinks is sent to us, so we can
Okay.
explore it ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie.
I guess I had one question, and it's just to maintain it, do you feel like you can build out a good workflow like an OpenGov or something? Because you're talking about like the plan commission approval phase to the building department's approval phase, to when they're issuing a occupation.
Mhm.
Just would be kind of curious of what your thoughts are to build out that workflow. And not today, just,
Okay.
it seems like something I have experience with kind of creating that collaboration. But that would be the most important part, because that would then kind of keep that data fresh and hopefully in perpetuity for us.
Okay, moving on to item number 2 under administrative business, the CDO prioritization list and possible edits.
Yes, so at the last plan commission meeting, it was discussed of a text amendment that will be going to the commissioners this year, actually this week and next week, regarding the sliding scale amendment. There was some discussion in a prior administrative meeting about maybe adding to the CDO prioritization list. So the two things that we had captured from that discussion, well, 3, I guess. One is that there was some concern by some folks of, I guess, scratching off number 1 or saying number 1 is fully complete as part of the discussion of the 25-year reservation, and whether people wanted to see an addendum added to this list, such as researching an additional subdivision type, which I'll note is also already on the list, a potential new subdivision type allowing cluster development in return for open space. And then there was also another discussion of editing the section of partial plat vacation re-subdivision, potentially after that 25-year time period is up for sliding scale, whether people wanted to see that more clearly allowed to re-subdivide under a minor or sliding scale, and if we need to change the code to allow that. So I have this up. I think what we've been doing is, as a plan commission, voting on changes to this list, and then the ordinance review committee prioritizes the timing of it. So I'm looking today for a majority vote, whether people would like to see items 1 and or 2 added to the CDO prioritization list, or discussion of it.
I'd also like to talk about item 1. And whether or not we agree or not agree on whether it's substantially complete or complete. And I suggest we start there first.
Have to make a motion.
The motion is that item 1 on the CDO tabled items for review and prioritization is complete.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to change item number 1 under the CDO table items for review and prioritization to say complete with the ordinance 2026-01. I'll go ahead and call the roll. Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
John Enright Randolph,
I, no,
okay. Scott Ferris,
Yes.
Rudy Fields,
I'm gonna not vote. I don't understand it. I
Okay.
just do not understand it, and I don't feel that it's,
abstain.
it'd be disingenuous for me to vote on something that I don't understand, so I assume not vote.
Okay, David Henry,
Abstain.
abstain.
can I change my vote? I'll abstain from it.
Okay. Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
David Bush,
Yes.
and then Tron, you wanna change from no to,
Yeah, I feel like it's the same thing.
so it still passes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's 5-0 to 3.
And it doesn't mean that at any point in time, the issue can't be raised again. It's just that we're done ruminating over it now because we've had one conclusion reached at this point, and we've got other items that we've not even talked about yet that have to be addressed, so.
The one thing I would add, and I think it's important, is we need to show progress.
Wow.
We need to show progress, and spending a year on a topic and going back and forth on that, whether we have agreement or not agreement, but we have a majority, in my opinion, it's time to move on. But we need to show we've made progress in our discussion. That's just my comment, general comment.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. So moving on to the other 2 items, does anybody wish to make a motion on whether we should consider items 1 and 2?
I'm wondering if you can explain the second item. I understand the first item, but can you explain the second item?
Sure. Okay, so when we were discussing the sliding scale subdivision procedure and the 25-year reservation, it was discussed that people had thought previously, that after that 25-year, you might be able to conduct like a minor on that remainder. And we had discussed that part of the CDO provisions that we added was to kind of close that loophole, if you will, because people were doing a minor subdivision, creating 4 11-acre lots, and then vacating one of those tracts one at a time and doing a 2-lot sliding scale. And so by the end, they had 8 lots with septic systems. So if it is of interest to folks to allow that back in, to allow people after they've done a minor to do a sliding scale, or allow people after they've done a sliding scale and wait 25 years to do a minor or another subsequent sliding scale without that infrastructure, that's something that we could add in.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's just this particular table. It's not
Just this tier.
Got it. Thank you. Right.
I'm obviously in support. I'm kind of more curious where my colleagues are. I think this creates some unintentional outcomes. One of them being, if you just look at like the other part of this where it talks about the lot sizes, and I think one you have to have 40 acres minimum to do the 3 additional lots.
Yep.
I'm gonna hold up because it's easier for the visual, because I've had this conversation.
That's fine.
So 40 acres or greater, you can add the additional lots, right? But that immediately eats into what the parent parcel is gonna be. And the way the vacation works is you can only do a major. So as we're still figuring out the septic sewer thing, they can't do anything with their property because a major is 5 lots minimum. And if they can't get a sewer hookup, they have to have 10 acres. So you'd have to have a minimum of 50 acres in that parent parcel after 25 years to do anything without maybe going through a variance or such. But that's what I think is what, or my real concern now is with the sliding scale. And, you know, also if, let's say you have a larger lot and you do something 80 acres or something, and you have 50 acres in that parent parcel, you wait the 25 years. Are we creating the density where we need the infrastructure, as far as allowing them to do another sliding scale? I'm not sure. I think I have no set ideas or recommendations, but I do think it's worth the discussion, and I think we can address this in a way that potentially will allow more, even if it's a minor or something. Like, that's where my confusion was. I thought through the vacation option that you could do a minor, but I was incorrect on that. And I just feel like it's very limited based off of what you have to do for a major. That could you go back to the other table? That is your only option if you choose it. Also, my question is, anyone that has done sliding scale now, is this their only option now? So like if someone had a sizable lot, went through the sliding scale prior to the change, prior to the issue with septic and sewer, hoping that one day they could maybe do a major, and it is in a reasonable area that, you know, maybe there's consensus with the group that, hey, that should be permitted. They can't do that anymore because each lot has to be a minimum of 10 acres. So that's kind of where my thoughts are. And, you know, I'll kind of defer to the group here if you want to kind of hash that up. I really don't want to go through the same exercise that we did with the sliding scale. But I have to kind of share my thoughts on the matter too. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Tom. Does anybody else have comments? Sheets? Seeing none, Jackie, can you pull the 2 questions back up? Do we have a motion on whether or not to add these to the list?
I'd just like to add something to the discussion. And I think that I stated this at a plan commission meeting and at the ordinance review committee meeting. And I don't know if everybody agrees or if they disagree. But we have, you know, first of all, staff, I want to thank you for all the work that you've done on the CDO and for putting up with us, because we are, you know, 9 people, not always agreeing with each other. And there's almost some issues, not all of them, and many of them not, but on some issues, there is like a fine line between both sides of a point of view. But I think that we owe it to staff and to our process that we get through the initial agreed upon CDO prioritization list before we add on to it. Because if we never finish the prioritization list, then that doesn't speak well of us. If the supplemental CDO prioritization list could be named something else, or it could be made more clear that that it's, you know, the CDO prioritization list is something that we as a body agreed upon. And if people willy-nilly kind of keep adding to it along the process, it becomes a never-ending feedback loop. So I would call it issues to explore further, but not anything having to do with the CDO. You know, zoning issues, planning issues to discuss further down the road until we get through these 14 completed agreed upon CDO tabled items for review and prioritization. I think that, the supplemental CDO prioritization list, the title of it bothers me, the process of it bothers me. I mean, if I wanted to right now, I could conceivably just give you 5 more issues that I'd like you to investigate. And the prioritization list just never ends. So I'd like us to have an ending point on what we originally agreed upon. And then entertain like a rolling wish list of zoning and planning discussions for the future, but not really so tied to the CDO prioritization. Now, that's my comment. I don't know how other people feel about that, but I'd like to see an end to this CDO. I mean, I know it never ends, but I'd like to see an end to what we agreed upon as a body.
Can you go back to the list? And I think I counted 9. I may be wrong in my count, of which are still open.
Still open.
And that one's substantially, so that would count as one that's still open, so that would be closed there. So I think I see 9. And I agree with Margaret was saying. I think we need to close out the CDO discussion.
Of what we heard from the public.
That's
This was generated from the general public. Right.
I know that.
Right.
That's right. We need to close this thing out. That makes perfect sense. And Tron brings up good points about things that need to be discussed in the future. And I think what you do is we call it something different. And we track it as something different. And matter of fact, if Margaret wants to add 5 things to that list, let Margaret add 5 things to that list. Okay, doesn't mean we're gonna address them. It's just that these are just almost brainstorming items or areas for
Sure.
improvement for the CDO.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, it doesn't mean we stop improving the CDO and.
No, you want
continue
to, you always.
to critically analyze aspects of it and whether they're working or not working.
Yes.
Especially if you get a lot of variance requests or something like
Yeah.
that. But this is a separate item,
Yes.
right? All the items relate to the CDO, so it's a little bit of a
Yes.
naming issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can keep anybody's brainstorming what they want, ideas as something else, call it something else. I don't, and whoever wants to put anything on it, put something on it, but then it's up to the planning commission and or the ordinance review committee to say, we really need to get on this, item 26. Item 26 is the most important. I mean, or you all should be adding items to it as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because based on variances of questions and, it's that, staff is going to inform a lot of these, I think.
Yes.
So,
So future discussions or something I think that the
future
staff,
consideration.
yeah, the staff deserves a closeout on this. They've been working on it for years.
Yeah.
And you've done great.
Again, my lack of understanding, if, we close out the CDO. And then all of a sudden somebody's got one of these good ideas that we find on this other list of good ideas. You change the CDO?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a dynamic thing.
It's just
not-
dynamic, yeah. Nothing's in.
The concerns from the initial passage
Mhm.
that that came up among, it came up in our work sessions and it came up in public and, I could probably think about where most of this came from. Yeah.
We probably said publicly that we were going to take on these comments.
Yes. We
And
did.
as a result of their public hearings, et cetera. And so I think that it's on us to take and address those things first. Right.
Sure. One thing I just wanted to add is, we make recommendations. So it moves to the commissioner level for adoption. So just wanted to make sure that was clear, kind of. Also, I agree with, everyone. I think we could change the name. So like it shows that we're making progress, but also leave the flexibility to prioritize what is urgent. Especially if we identify things that have unintentional consequences or unintentional impacts, or some state legislation comes down and we just need to jump on it to really, protect Monroe County from certain unknowns. I think that's fine. I think the ORC could discuss some of that prioritization, and I also think if it's, needs to be brought to the full plan commission, that,
Just call it future topics for ORC discussion. That's what I would call it, because that's exactly what it is.
and, you
And
know,
I think we need to continue to reprioritize it. I think we leave it at, I'm sure if staff sees something we need to address quickly, they'll raise
There's an
it.
elephant on that list we need.
Right, but to continually hem and haw over what's more important is not a good use of anyone's time. I think we get the CDO list done first,
Yeah.
my opinion.
Okay, so we've got several people that I think are saying the same thing here. Would somebody be willing to make a motion on this?
I would like to move that we complete the CDO tabled items for review and prioritization. And as far as new discussions and new topics for our consideration that we come up with a different list. And a list of issues, future issues to discuss, something else, but let's close out this CDO tabled items for review and prioritization. That's a motion.
Second.
In that motion, Margaret,
Yeah.
for the way that people add to that list, do we want it to come from the plan commission admin, or do we want it?
I think
to from ORC?
Plan commission admin and
Majority.
or ORC and staff.
Okay.
For a majority vote.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
See, I'm gonna put majority vote.
You want to add that to your motion?
Yes, I'd like to add that to my motion. And whoever.
Would you like to second that? Ad?
Yes, I will second that. Yes.
So it's been motioned and seconded to, first address, continue to address the CDO tabled items, which originated from the public. And then come up, with a separate list, instead of naming it something like supplemental CDO prioritization list, it's going to be titled something such as future topics for plan commission or ORC consideration. And those items can be added to that list by a majority vote of the plan commission at an administrative meeting. And also can originate from the ORC or staff, but voted on at an administrative meeting. A vote yes is a vote to approve the separation of these two lists first. John Enright, Randall.
Yeah.
Scott Pierce,
Yes.
Rudy Fields,
Yes.
David Henry,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
David Bush,
Yes.
Martin Clemens.
Yes.
And then since that was the motion, do you want to vote on, majority vote on adding these as the first two items of that future discussion list?
So moved and, but not necessarily stating these are the most important, but that they will be the first items on this new list.
No.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to add items number 1 and 2.
And we should have a party number 3, party when we finish the CDO. Number 3.
Items number 1 and 2 on the list of the screen will be added as the first two items, not necessarily prioritized in that order, but just added to the list. And that we agreed that we're not going to be continually doing prioritization, but that people would continually review and filter out that list and add it to, ask staff to bring it forward as a text amendment as necessary. A vote yes is a vote to add these two items to the future discussion list. Scott Fairs,
Yes.
Rudy Fields,
Yes.
David Henry,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
David Bush,
Yes.
Mark Clemens,
Yes.
John Henry Randolph.
yes.
Okay, motion is approved unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item number 3. This is the board appointments for the plan commission and other subcommittees.
I have a comment. And that is that I think in years past, we waited till February. Based upon who we think is going to be representative from the county commissioners. And also from the county council, until we know who those people are, I think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's just my comment.
Yep, I agree. Usually it's the February admin meeting, and I don't want us to get over our skis on this one.
I agree. Plus, we spent a lot of time on the earlier discussion, except maybe the citizen appointee to the plat committee. He expressed interest, and that one doesn't really. I feel like that's a little bit of an outlier.
Travis has to continue to do it.
We could appoint him now and then figure out the rest on February. I'm just so we can let him know unless others have thoughts on it.
Did we decide that that's 3 people from the planning commission and only 1 resident? Is that what we decided? Cause I remember we talked about this a couple months ago.
And then we left it alone. We didn't.
We
do anything.
did.
I
Yeah.
think it was if it were,
Jeff said
between
it's
3
good.
and 5 members.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then you could have up to 4 PC members. I think we have the flexibility.
Got it. So we could add a second citizen appointment later. If there's
I
any
think
appointments
it's
in.
into the procedure.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay, all right. I just wanted to refresh my foggy brain. I would move that we appoint Travis Dixon to the plat committee.
I'll second.
All right, would that be the only motion?
That's the only one.
Continue the
That's just,
rest of the-
continue the rest until February admin meeting.
Okay, so.
My second stands.
Okay, so the motion is to, only appoint Travis Sixton as the plat committee citizen appointee and otherwise continue the rest of this appointment schedule until the February admin meeting. As a reminder, everyone that's on here already continues to serve in their roles until they're appointed otherwise.
Still up.
A vote yes, there's a vote to, approve the motion, so, Scott Bears.
Yes.
Rudy Fields.
Yes.
David Henry.
Yes.
Jeff Norris.
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
David Bush.
Yes.
Margaret Clement. Yes. John Henrik Randall.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, moving on to new business, we have 3 items. Jackie, I'm not sure if you want me to go through each of these, or if you're still going to through.
Let's see if there's any, there might be something on the second one that I wanna bring up, but this one did go to plat committee. It's a sliding scale subdivision. There was not, a whole lot of discussion by the plat committee, other than they recommended the same, I believe. And just to show preservation of trees to satisfy the requirements instead of a true street tree waiver. So it's a subdivision, sidewalk waiver, and street tree waiver request. That's why it has to go to the planning commission. So this will be decided at the regular meeting of the planning commission. The next one is this was a tabled item, so we did still have a question. I think that we tabled this in December to give some time to see if the commissioners had any input on this, since it is a plan commission authored request, if there was no consideration. Station, if they're looking to get sewer service, it's looking like they would need at least one other, if not a few. I think they're not contiguous enough, but it's possible it could happen. But it would be a long stretch because of the trail.
On South.
It is in
And
that.
it's annexation area 1B.
So they can't do anything until the court cases are done, and then they have to wait a certain number of years before they can be annexed, voluntarily or not.
Wasn't the one that just went through and they said, okay. It was.
Right. This is legal. Right. We've been in some email chains with the city and their legal department, and they're still advising people on how to voluntarily annex.
Okay, so, all right, so let me. Because what I heard from my colleagues on this particular property is they said, I don't know how it could be HD because of the shape of the property and it's only an acre. So we were just gonna go with whatever a 1 acre lot would normally be in the county as the appropriate zoning is what we, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a suburban or, yeah.
Okay.
But because they're still gonna freeze on anyway. If this is just to take it out of something that, it is not a PUD. It is not part of the PUD, it should not be PUD. So this is sort of an intermediate point, and that's what we had recommended. But I do think that, we need to have a discussion about the other annexation areas, so.
Okay.
Should I maybe have Jeff Copper reach out to you, because we talked about this, and we thought,
We have this on the regular agenda to go for January as a preliminary hearing. Do you want to see if we need time into February?
I would put this on February for 1 acre, if you don't mind.
All right,
That was the consensus of my colleagues. I was actually pretty
okay. And
unsure.
then we can, discuss a little bit more with the city and get,
Yeah.
it literally came like less than an hour ago about.
Yeah. So let's see what happens.
Okay. On that note, just wanted to point out, for annexation, the city did have an approval of a voluntary annexation, late last year. And then Ellisville, they've
It's
been,
annexation area 4,
Right.
off of Corey Lane.
Illegal.
and Ellisville has continued to, annex. Just last year, at the very end of the year, they sent us, that they had annexed for the year 6 parcels totaling 83 acres. One of which was contiguous to other subdivision areas. In 2024, we had about 7 parcels, 171 acres annexed. 2023, 0, 2022, 1 property that was 34 acres that was cooked, so.
Yeah.
Just wanted to keep on our radar
And
that
those are all voluntary annexations.
those were
Yes.
voluntary.
They don't have to do a fiscal plan.
Can if a property, like, let's just say that one in, annexation area 4, that was applied to the city, they voluntarily annexed to the city, but it can't take place until the annexation laws are fully adjudicated plus 2 years. So, can they voluntarily disannex and say we represent 100% of the property owners? It's one owner.
There is, I have talked to, the legal department about de-annexation, but I'm not entirely familiar. I think they.
I think that's a conversation they need to have.
Right,
But
but
I don't want to
yes.
move into legal waters.
No, but also just please keep
Both
in
of my
mind
shoes.
that those areas in 3, 4, and 5, once, if the waiver issue is not decided in the favor of the residents, those areas still have a right to judicial review. So it could restart the court cases again.
Right, I don't know if there's movement towards voluntary now on both Ellisville and city sides.
Well, Ellisville certainly is looking to what they call a merger as an annexation of the entirety of Richland Township. And, folks out there need to understand that that means they will be subject to, the property taxes may not change much, but they will be subject to a local income tax.
Right.
If they become part of the town of Ellisville.
And on that note, the reorganization of Ellisville and,
It's an.
sure, but the term is reorganization.
Right.
Yeah,
There's a
the
reason for that.
township, Richland, and the town of Ellisville, it's a sizable area. I kind of broke down the data. I don't want to speculate too much, but I think about 15,000 within that whole area, and I think that's parcel base, so it might be more people. They're moving forward. They just got their reorganization committee and now they're spinning up subcommittees. And I guess I'm asking my colleagues here, is that worth our planning department's time to potentially sit on some of the steering committees to make sure some of maybe our ordinances that we have in that area, if this does take place, could potentially be built into their area. It's a large area. It's actually that side of the county, the west side, kind of this little diagonal thing is our most karst sensitive area in the county. And I'm sorry, I don't want to volunteer you guys, but I do think if we're able to even be part of a steering committee, could be beneficial, and I'm just kind of curious what other.
we're premature.
We could, yeah, you're absolutely right. We could wait a little bit of time, but they're getting their steering committees now.
We're not picking steering committees, they pick their steering
No, I know.
committees, and their committee's already picked who they wanna pick, and, I'm sure that they know that if, they need to reach out to us, they can for assistance or information, but at the same time, this is premature. I think this is too early, and, I don't think that we should spend our time, on this yet. We don't know the proposal. The proposal will be out supposedly March or April. The proposal, which then has to go to the township board and the town council for
Mhm.
approval. But that has to all be done by June in order for it to be on the ballot in November at the general election.
Mhm.
So, I think if the reorganization, the annexation is what it is, it's an annexation. It doesn't matter what planning and zoning we have done, they will be in charge of it. And, you know, I doubt that they look to us and say, oh, can you help us? But it would be stormwater, police, they already manage their own fire, highway, all of that would be theirs to manage in a very short time. Which is a little,
Planning authority too, but
Right.
they all call it. Oh, I know it, visual, I can't even remember the term they use, basically conceptual ideas. I've just been paying attention, following the town hall, they got their organization committee, they're looking for, folks to send interest if they want to be part of this steering committee.
I guess my point is, we really don't have a say in this matter.
it's gonna be up to the voters.
Sure.
And because it's an annexation, whatever has been done with county planning doesn't matter. If the Richland Township outside of Ellisville chooses to be part of Ellisville, that's their decision, and that means they're saying, go ahead and plan us. So,
Sidetrack, but I wanted to bring that up as part of this discussion.
I think it's really important. I would assume.
it
most
is very
people-
important, but it's also not. It's sometimes you just have to let go of the wheel and see what they do. Let them drive into the ditch or drive onto the
I
autobahn,
just wish everybody could,
you know?
I wish
Sometimes there's just,
people-
if you don't stay.
well, I would hear the highway rules, although the voters, at least in that annexation,
We'll have a
decide.
voice, that's
Yeah.
right, including those in
Yes.
Ellisville currently,
That's right,
which is the right way to do it.
that's right.
The last item on the agenda is text amendment. This actually came from a discussion with staff and the ordinance review committee regarding the number of variances that were being applied for and that they were being granted in kind of large numbers. So we added a few extra scrivener's errors, since anytime we're taking the text amendment anyways, we'd like to clean up anything we can. So the main change here, though, that's in addition to the code, is under the environmental constraints overlay section. And there's not currently an exception allowed for accessory structures, but there is an exception allowed for the presence or the construction of an initial single-family residence. So we're getting a lot of folks that want to put in a pool, or they want to put in a garage, things like that. That's totally unbuildable flat area, but they don't meet the other criteria such as contiguous buildable area, which is meaning to be 1 acre, or that they don't have enough of a lot size. Their lot size isn't big enough in the eco area. So it's meant to more so, I guess, regulate density in the eco areas, but a lot of the lots have already been legally established, legally created over decades. And so this is catching a lot of those people that are in older platted subdivisions or just existing historical lots of record that are.
So accessory structures could be a pool, it could be a deck, it could be a shed.
Right.
And I appreciate that the exception does have use, which is good.
That's
Okay,
okay.
yeah. I'm cool with this. I think this is good. It makes people's homes more livable to have those options. what is the 0.25 contiguous buildable area? Around what if it's on one side of the residence? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle over the residence. Right, it could be 0.25 on the west side of the building or something, right?
Right, so the idea, and this also applies to additions as well, not just accessory structure.
Right.
But the idea of the contiguous buildable areas, that many of these lots are on septic systems. And so we are hoping to still, that to qualify for the exception, the accessory structure or the addition must be located on flat ground.
Mhm.
And if you're taking up some of that flat ground that you have left, that leaves less area in the place of a failed septic to go elsewhere on the lot. So we wanna make sure that the septic system, if it does fail, has another location. So when we did the math, we added up a typical house and the, 1,750 square feet plus 1,000 square foot addition. We were coming up with something like 0.17 acres, which would leave enough room for what we would say would be a septic system, which was typically, I think, 40 by 70.
Right.
So that's the idea behind this, is that we don't wanna, because this is an exception to the 1 acre, we wanted to have a floor, if you will, that was 0. So that we wouldn't be taking up the rest of their buildable area for a pool when they need it for a secondary septic site.
So then my next question is this. You came up with 1,750 square feet for, an accessory structure, so that's a pretty big shed. Or barn, or whatever it might be, or pool. So. Okay, so how? 1,750 is huge.
Proposed accessory.
Yeah,
So that number we used the number of the, residential storage structure
Right.
maximum, but that isn't necessarily an eco, it's just a number that we want to be.
Yeah,
At time,
that's a pretty big number.
Keep it lower.
Yeah.
Less than 1,000 or something.
Yeah. I just think if you're gonna say the addition can only be 1,000, then I don't know why you wouldn't say that anything you're adding would be 1,000, it just makes more sense, but that's my take on it.
So would you recommend changing that?
I'd recommend changing that.
1,000?
Yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah.
I agree.
What do you say, Dave? You have actually, accessory structures that you utilize, right? With
Yeah, I was just doing the maintenance, and one of my smaller buildings is 24 by 48, which is 1152, so that's.
for 1,200 maybe? What do you think, Rudy?
Still
What do you
pretty good
think?
size.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Well, this is only-
but you're on a bigger piece of ground than what we would be talking about here, right?
What's that?
You're on a bigger piece of ground than what we would be talking about here.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he's not in the eco zone either.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so that's,
I,
what do you guys think?
Because they could apply for variance. Now, let's say they wanted to build the 1,100
Mhm.
square foot barn,
Are you gonna show us an
stable
example?
building.
Sure. Whatever.
They could come for variance to the BZA still. It doesn't mean they can never do it. It just means,
it
and the
seems,
BZA can look at it and say, well, yeah, that does work here, you know?
it seems to me that your point about the size of the addition and the size of the structure being the same, you got another 1,000 square feet or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah,
would be the,
but you're really looking at runoff, like how much runoff are you creating
Right.
and the volume of that runoff off of roofs and things like that, so. So that's my motion is 1,000.
And just to bring up, at the ordinance review committee, we brought up a few examples of variances from just last year. So we looked at an example of one that only had, by calculation, 0.24 acres of buildable, and they needed a side setback variance as well. So anytime you need another variance, you're not going to qualify for the exception, so it goes to BZA anyways. So there was no exception for this, which was an addition. And then this one was going to enclose kind of a deck area, totally on flat area. They are 1/2 acre, but that requires 2.5 acres. So in this case, the exception would apply. The addition was 150 square feet. This one is a proposed pool. It was located on slopes less than 12%, which was the requirement, 555 square feet. It would qualify. And then we had one that ended up getting modified, but it wouldn't have been, their original proposal would not have fit because they wanted an accessory structure of 3,456 square feet. They have 1.4 acres, and they also wanted to expand the home 900 square feet.
The
So
roof is pink, so it's Barbie's dream house.
Jack,
no, he wasn't going to qualify, but that was the variances that we just had for that year.
Yeah.
So I think even if we lowered it, we could do a new estimate of the variances we've seen. 1,000 square feet is better than zero. I think a lot of people are seeing to just do like and this, the way it's written right now, it would allow for both 1,000 square foot home addition and 1,000 square foot accessory structure. So it does,
And
it's
it's
in the flexibility,
Footprint
and it's
for,
cumulative,
yeah, it's a footprint for the addition, and they could go 2 stories.
right?
They'll do 2,000.
That's right.
But it's.
It's about land disturbance, like. And that's where.
I got a question, and if you want to just give me a ballpark, what type of variances do we see, like the size? Are they typically under 1,000 foot?
That's what I was mentioning to the ORC, we did the examples, but I could go back further and do like
You don't
4
really-
years. But we've been seeing. It varies, but we've been seeing people that wanna do additions, we've been seeing people that wanna do accessory structures. Because we don't have the exception now, we haven't necessarily done the analysis based on square footage size.
And I guess my reason for the question is that these are variances that tend to get approved, and that
Right.
is higher than 1,000, then we're not really fixing anything here. So, but I leave it with the folks that serve on the BZA or you to kind of move this forward in the right direction.
These gentlemen are, I think that, they know more about it than I do, and it makes sense to me if it makes sense to them, and there's a process that can help mitigate a property owner who falls outside of it, so I feel good about it. I think it was a good catch, Julie. And thanks, Dave and Rudy.
I would like to go ahead and do the it doesn't take us very long, I can do the analysis for the regular meeting to attach it to the text amendments, so then you can see like of the ones we did, I'll just do like 2 years.
That sounds great. I just want to make sure we're changing it to kind of,
Yep.
for the
I agree.
reason we're discussing it.
I don't know the answer off the hand, so.
Sorry for that.
Okay, that is our last item, I think. Jackie, is there anything else to go over tonight?
No, that's not the whole entirety of the, text amendment, but the rest of it. I don't think I need to go over anything else. It's very self-explanatory in the upfront. It's nothing major, so.
What is the wireless communications facilities?
Yes.
That's exempt because of state law?
No, this
What did I
one
miss?
is, let's go over it. It's,
Sorry, I'm so happy to see this one, actually.
So
That's what I did.
site plan or plot plan reviews, so in order for someone to do, a wireless communication facility, they submit to us a site plan showing a lease area. Typically, it's 100 feet by 100 feet, they have
In
a
a
tower,
fenced-in area.
it's gravel. And what we're getting a lot of is now people wanna do like an additional cabinet or a generator that's just very small, within that lease area, we already have the site plan, it's going on gravel. And, they don't tend to love us when we tell them they need a whole site plan and everyone in every
It's a lot
department to review it.
Grass too.
That's true.
And that can happen, a generator can be placed on gravel, and so.
Well, we right now requires.
Plan.
And we would be requiring that, but there are already state laws regarding this that we have to, approve them and basically at a very fast rate and. Or they just automatically get approved, so yeah,
This is only for amendments, so new wireless communication facilities, no change.
my concern is the noise factor with the generator.
Okay.
Well, what is the noise factor of one of those generators and
Yeah.
how close to somebody, because you have to have a fall.
So,
You have to have the fall zone, so already you're so many feet away from the residents.
The generator's only coming on during an
Yeah,
emergency with
during
no
a power
power. I
outage.
don't think that should be a huge concern.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I
I
mean,
just don't
my
understand
neighbor
that.
would probably on their generator.
Mine comes on automatically.
I don't have one. That's still- you need one.
Generate.
Okay,
There's no wood.
I'm good. I just throwing stuff out there. Okay, let's see what sticks. This one didn't stick, it's okay. Good.
Okay, I think that was the bulk of the text amendments, but, take a look. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. This would go to the regular meeting for preliminary hearings. And I'll bring back the analysis mainly for the, perimeter there, or the accessory structure. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion for adjournment?
Motion moved. Second.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, so
Thank you.